A man so powerful, so ruthless, that his name alone could strike fear into the hearts of world leaders. A man who built an empire worth over $30 billion and reshaped not just Colombia, but America itself. This is the story of Pablo Escobar, the rise, reign, and the devastating fall of the King of America. Before the world knew him as the most notorious drug lord in history, Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was just a poor boy from Rio Negro, Colombia. Born in 1949, he grew up in a country riddled with political instability and extreme wealth inequality. But Pablo wasn't like other kids. He had ambition, an obsession with power, wealth, and influence. As a teenager, he dabbled in petty crimes, stealing cars, smuggling cigarettes, and even selling fake lottery tickets. But soon, Escobar realized something. There was a product that people would pay anything for, a product so addictive that once it entered a country, it would never leave: cocaine. By the late 1970s, Escobar had partnered with some of Colombia's most dangerous traffickers to flood the United States with cocaine. The demand was insatiable. Cocaine was becoming the drug of choice in cities like Miami, Los Angeles, and New York. By the time the 1980s hit, Escobar controlled roughly 80% of the global cocaine market. His cartel was making an estimated $420 million a week. But here's the thing: Escobar wasn't just selling drugs, he was redefining American culture. Escobar's cocaine fueled the greed of Wall Street, the nightlife of Hollywood, and the crime waves of American inner cities. Cocaine wasn't just a drug, it was a status symbol. Even celebrities, politicians, and business tycoons indulged in the white gold that Escobar supplied. But with all that money and power came violence. The Miami drug war erupted. Bodies were piling up in the streets, executions became routine, and entire neighborhoods turned into battlegrounds. Cartel hitmen, known as sicarios, carried out assassinations in broad daylight, leaving law enforcement struggling to keep up. The United States government found itself at war with an invisible enemy. The DEA, the FBI, and even the CIA were scrambling to combat a drug trade that had already corrupted officials at every level. Political leaders, law enforcement officers, and even judges were either on Escobar's payroll or living in fear of his wrath. His influence ran deeper than anyone could have imagined, reaching into the highest ranks of power on both sides of the border. At his peak, Pablo Escobar was untouchable. He built entire neighborhoods for the poor, gaining the love of the Colombian people. He even ran for political office, coming close to controlling Colombia itself. But behind the generosity was a man who ruled with pure terror. Judges, journalists, and government officials who stood in his way were eliminated. His infamous quote said it all: "Plata o plomo, silver or lead. Accept the bribe or take a bullet." Escobar didn't hesitate to eliminate anyone who threatened his empire. When Colombia's Minister of Justice, Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, spoke out against him, he was gunned down in cold blood. When presidential candidate Luis Carlos Galán vowed to extradite drug lords to the US, Escobar had him assassinated in front of thousands of supporters. Even Supreme Court justices weren't safe. His men stormed the Palace of Justice in 1985, leading to a massacre that left nearly 100 people dead. His war against the government had no limits. In 1991, Escobar agreed to surrender, but on his own terms. He built his own luxury prison, known as La Catedral, complete with a nightclub, soccer field, and spa. From this so-called prison, he continued running his empire, hosting parties and executing enemies who betrayed him. But as his power grew, so did the pressure from the Colombian government and the United States. The authorities could no longer ignore the international embarrassment of Escobar's comfortable captivity. In 1992, when the government announced plans to transfer him to a real prison, Escobar made his move. Using intelligence from his vast network of informants, he escaped before authorities could act. What followed was one of the most intense manhunts in history. The Colombian government, with the full backing of the United States, mobilized elite military units, intelligence operatives, and cutting-edge surveillance technology to track him down. The US provided satellite imagery, advanced wiretapping capabilities, and millions of dollars in funding to support the Colombian authorities. authorities. The newly formed vigilante group, Los Pepes, made up of Escobar's enemies, former cartel members, and paramilitary forces, also began hunting him, killing his associates, and dismantling his support network. With his empire crumbling, his allies abandoning him, and his family under constant surveillance, Escobar was running out of options. For 16 months, Escobar was a ghost. He moved through Medellin like a shadow, relying on his most loyal men and an intricate network of informants to stay ahead of his hunters. Every day, he changed locations, never sleeping in the same place twice. Despite being the most wanted man on the planet, he still found ways to communicate with his family and taunt the authorities chasing him. The Colombian search block, aided by U.S. intelligence, was closing in. Every intercepted call, every whisper on the streets, brought them one step closer. His former allies had either been killed, captured, or had turned against him. The days of luxury, power, and control were long gone. The once invincible king of cocaine was now a desperate man, hunted with relentless precision. The walls were closing in. Escobar's death didn't end the drug trade, but it changed the landscape forever. The cocaine industry fragmented and new players emerged. The war on drugs intensified, shaping U.S. foreign policy for decades. But one thing remains clear. Pablo Escobar wasn't just a drug lord. He was a force that shaped America's streets, culture, and policies in ways that still linger today. Pablo Escobar's empire may have crumbled, but his influence still lingers. Was he simply a ruthless criminal, or did he expose the cracks in a system built on demand and corruption? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this story captivating, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into history's most powerful figures.